forward to introduce her, and that is Sister LaShondra Myrick. Will be judge of the house, county. At one point, all the officers in Lowndes County were white. Amen? Amen. But thank God, look what we have came.
Amen. Good afternoon. I think I've been assigned the easiest task today, and that's to introduce the speaker. She's from Gordonville, Alabama. She's a member of Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church. She's the daughter of Arthur Hewlett and the late Linda Carol Myrick. Some may know her as Deputy Myrick. Some may know her as Tax Assessor Myrick. And some may simply know her as Willie Ruth Myrick. My brother and I have the best title, and that's knowing her and calling her Mama. So I introduce the psalm and present to others our speaker for the day, Ms. Willie Ruth Myrick. All right.
I felt real comfortable down there. And I thought I was gonna be down there. And now they didn't elevate, but that's just doing a little bit too much. I would like to say good evening to Jonathan House of Prayer, Pastor Hardy,
Bless you.
Evangelist Johnson, and all of you that makes up this audience. When Ms. Smith called me about this, I said, oh no, not me. This is something I don't do. And then she kept talking, and it looked like the good Lord said, yeah, you do it. I said, okay, I'm gonna do it, but Lord have mercy, you gonna have to show enough hold my hand. And when she told me who I had to talk about, I said, well, that's easy. And then a few days later, Sean called me and said, Mama, Susie called and asked me to introduce you. I said, introduce me? That means I'm the guest speaker. She said, yeah. I told Lord, now I'm getting nervous, got real bad. And I said, okay, so I'm gonna have to put some stuff down on paper, because if I don't, they ain't gonna know nothing, because I ain't gonna say nothing. So I'm here today to talk about a man that really has spoken for himself. I'm talking about the life of John Hewlett, the sheriff. Amen. First of all, he was my uncle. John Hewlett was born to the late Jim and Daisy Hewlett in Gordonville, Alabama on November the 19th, 1927. He joined Mount Carmel Baptist Church, where he served until his health failed. John Hewlett attended and graduated from Lowndes County Training School. He furthered his studies at the University of Wisconsin, Sanford University, University of Alabama, and Howard Law School. Mr. Hewlett lived in Birmingham and moved to Georgia, and later moved back to Lowndes County, where he became the first black registered voter in Lowndes County since Reconstruction. Hewlett not only became the first registered voter, but brought dramatic change throughout the South. Lowndes County is historic territory in the civil rights struggle. During the 60s, Mr. Hewlett attended many mass meetings throughout the county. And on Sunday evenings, where he served as chairman of the organization. I'm going to stop here for a minute and tell you a little bit about those mass meetings. When he started going to those mass meetings, I just couldn't stay at home. I told him, I said, you gotta let me go. He said, well, if your grandmama and granddaddy says okay, Mama said yes, but Daddy didn't want me to go, but when Mama said yes, that was all I needed to hear. And I went every Sunday, unless the weather was so bad that I couldn't go. Cause back then, we didn't have no paved road or whatever, no gravel on the road, so if it rained, you couldn't get out, so I couldn't go then. And when we went to the mass meetings, they would everybody would be there, sitting around making plans and trying to decide who was gonna do what, trying to make plans to get people to the polls, to get them, to over the Havel to get them registered to vote. And everybody was afraid because white folks was talking about killing black folks. But they were determined that it was going to take place. So when they made all these plans and they started getting folks to Havel in carloads of them would go to Havel to get registered. There were so many people would show up over there in Havel until the white folks didn't know what to do. But they had to, because they passed this law where you had to let people register. And that was a good thing. And then after getting people registered, now you gotta get them to the polls so they can vote. So you still got another task. And they would get together and make plans on who was gonna pick up who was gonna work which area, so they could get people to the polls and vote. And back then, people voted. But now, for some reason, they don't feel like they have to. But if when Trump get through with us, yes, they're gonna wish that they had gotten up and went and voted. I heard a lady said on the news last night, she said, I voted before for President Biden, I don't know about this time. She said his strategy is one thing, but I like Trump's strategy the best. So I think I'm gonna vote for Trump. I said, Lord have mercy, Jesus, he's already president. Because if many black folks feel the way she feels, Trump gonna be our next president. Because we know and we see that I don't care what Trump do. White folks gonna put Trump back there if they can, along with our help. So when the mad meeting was over and it was time to go home, the men would get together and trail Mr. Hubert home because there was always threats being made on his life. But that didn't stop him. He was committed to getting the people registered to vote, and the people who lived on the white man land had to move, because when they became registered voters, they didn't have anywhere to go. So Mrs. Rosie Steele over in Whitehall, she had property down on Highway 80, and she allowed them to come there and pitch tents on her property there on Highway 80. And it became known as Tent City. Mr. Hewlett and the other men would get together and patrol the area at night so they could keep them safe, because people would come, the white folks would pass through there and shoot. So they had to do that in order to help keep the people safe. And later on, Mr. Hewlett and Stokely Carmichael, Bob Mance, and other sneak workers, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that's the name of the group, they worked to help these people find housing. Some of them built housing, found houses that, had bought property where they could build housing. Some went and found a house that they could purchase, and that's how they got out of Tent City. When the march came through Lowndes County during 1965, the white folks, the Ku Klux Klan was rough. And the last night of the Selma to Montgomery March, a white woman by the name of Viola Liuzzo, one of the volunteers from Detroit, was murdered by the Ku Klux Klan, night riders. And this was March the 25th when this happened. And she was using her vehicle to transport people back and forth to Montgomery. And she had a black guy riding with her. And the only reason they didn't kill him, it was because he laid there on her. And they thought he was dead. And that's the reason they didn't kill him, because if he had moved, then they would have killed him as well. And Mr. Hewlett and Stoker Carmichael, Bob Mance, and the other workers, like I said, they was committed to getting Lowndes County to get the right to vote. Mr. Hewlett was the founder of the and president of the Lowndes County Christian Movement for Human Rights. And that was the party that the black folks ran under in order to get elected. Because the rooster, the elephant, it just wasn't for us. It was for the white folks. There was a group of people that ran for office before Mr. Hewlett ran, and others that ran along with him. And that was, and I may miss somebody, I probably shouldn't call a name, but it was Sidney Logan Jr., Alice Moore, I think Miss Gardenia White, Willie Mae Strickland, John Henson, Frank Miles, Emory Ross, and I believe I'm missing somebody, but charge it to my head and not my heart, because my head is forgetful. It ain't what it used to be. But they ran, but they was unsuccessful in their bid for office. But that didn't stop Lowndes County black folks. They were determined that they were gonna put some black folks in office. And they did. In 1970, Mr. Hewlett ran for sheriff and he won. And I think Alma Miller ran that same year and became circuit clerk. Frank Miles Jr. ran for county commissioner. Charles Smith ran for county commissioner. I know those two was county commissioners during that election. And after that election, the courthouse began to fill up with black folks. Best thing in the world. And it is still filled with black folks. I don't even know if you got any whites in the courthouse now other than y'all district judge. But when Mr. Hewlett ran, they told him that if he ran and won, he would not live 3 days. And he told them, he said, well, I might not. I don't know whether I will live or die. But he got elected. And Hewlett began to build his reputation as a fair and even-handed sheriff that would deal with everyone fairly and equally. Hewlett also was the founder of the Black Panther Party in Lowndes County. A lot of people think that that originated up north, but it didn't. It originated right here in Lowndes County. He went to, I forget what state it was, and he went up there and he talked to the people there about that Black Panther Party. And then they organized it there and it just went all over. We need to bring that Black Panther Party back. Because like I say, a lot of us has forgotten where we came from. And just as sure as you forget where you came from, you're doomed to repeat it. So we need to keep put that Black Panther Party back in action. After becoming sheriff, Mr. Hewlett served for 23 years. He became sheriff for the white man just as well as the black man. And after he first became sheriff, there was a white guy by the name of Hallgrove from over there at Oklahoma. He came to Haynesville and rode his horse through the courthouse. And the horse messed in the floor. He left. Mr. Hewlett went and found him, brought him back to the courthouse, and said, now clean it up. And he had to get off of his horse and go in that courthouse and clean up that horse poop off that floor. After that, Hargrove became sheriff's best friend, best white friend, because he saw that he meant what he said, and he did what he said he would do.
All right.
The sheriff worked 7 days a week and was on call 24 hours a day to make sure that the citizens of Lowndes County had access to the sheriff department. If you called, you always got somebody. Somebody was coming to see about whatever was going on with you. You didn't call and nobody showed up. Because in the sheriff department back then, didn't have but 2 or 3 people on staff. And all the other guys you saw walking around there in uniform, they wasn't paid. They was volunteering their time. Because when I got hired by Sheriff Hewlett in July 1972, there was only 3 of us. The sheriff, Callaway Reed, and myself. Like I said, all the other people that was there in uniform, they was people who volunteered to help out. And after Callaway Reed left, Mark Meadows came, and it just kept changing hands, and finally, Sheriff made me chief deputy. And I served in that capacity about 9 years before I retired from the sheriff department. And when I was hired as the deputy for Lowndes County, I was the first black female to be hired as a deputy in law enforcement in the state of Alabama. Sheriff Hewlett was the kind of sheriff that if you committed a crime, he was going to arrest you. But he also would contact your family and let them know where you were. And he would tell them, you need to get somebody to come up here and make bond for him. His job was to arrest you. But that was nothing said that he could not help you to get bond made. Mr. Hewlett didn't just put folks in jail, he would counsel them as well to keep them out of jail. Because he would always say, my child is not going to marry my child. My child is going to marry your child. So we need to, all of us need to raise our children where they would be compatible and equally with each other. Because you don't want your child to marry my child and my child is in trouble and whatever all the time. You want your child to marry somebody that you will be proud of. And that was one of his main goals, was to make sure that our young people was brought up right and our young people would be kept safe. In 1983, September, Mr. Hewlett was shot with his own pistol in Calhoun at a baseball game. And he recovered from it, of course. He lost kidney. And he continued his job as sheriff. Years later, he decided to retire. And that was in February of 1993. But he was determined that he was not going to retire until the governor appointed who he wanted to take that position. And his choice was, after going through different ones, he decided to, on Trooper Willie Bonner. And at first they would not appoint him. And the date that he had set to retire, he said, well, I can't go now, I gotta wait. So he had to go back to the governor. And when he got through going back and having people to call and whatever on Bonner's behalf, then the governor decided that, okay, if this is who you want, then this is who we're gonna put in your place. And they did. And when he told us he was going to retire, then a few of us got together and we decided that we were going to do something for him. And at first, when we first started talking about it, we was talking about charging people $25 to come to the event. He said, you can't do that. You can't do that. You ain't gonna charge all kind of folks to come to nothing. Okay, so we said, okay, that's out. Now we gotta try to come up with some money to fund this event. Because what we had in mind, that's been kicked out the window. So I got on the telephone and started calling folks and started calling lawyers and judges and everybody I could call, car dealers and everybody. I would need some money. Lowndes County and the surrounding counties stepped up. And we funded that event, and when we finished, we had enough money to purchase a vehicle for Mr. Hewlett. We purchased a Cadillac. Jerry Thornton came to me and he said, Willie, Ruth said, who's gonna go and buy this car? I said, I guess I am. He said, no, you don't need to do that. I said, why not? He said, well, I'm gonna tell you. He said, when a white man go to a dealership, he gonna get the best deal. He said, if the black man go, he gonna get a little lesser deal. He said, if the white woman go, she gonna get a lesser deal than him. And if the black woman go, she gonna get the bottom deal. So you don't need to go. I said, well, who gonna go? You? He said, I will if you want me to. And the money that we had was enough to purchase that vehicle. I don't know what he did when he got there. But whatever it was, we didn't have to come up with no more money. And that was a God blessing. And after that, then Mr. Hewlett decided that he would run for probate judge. And he became the first black probate judge in Lowndes County. And he was able to serve only one term, and that was because of his his age. Because in Alabama, I know in Alabama, the law is when you get a certain age, you can't run for office. For certain offices, anyway. So he couldn't run for a second term. So John Edward, his son, ran. And all people were saying, he running against his dad. No, he's not. His dad is retiring. He's not running against his dad. Got that over to the people, and they elected him as the next probate judge. All right. And when time for him to take office, the oath was administered to him by his father. First, that was history because that's the first time in the history of the state of Alabama that has ever happened. And John Edward, when he was in office, he served 3 terms and retired. Sheriff Hewlett passed away on August the 21st, 2006, and he was laid to rest on August 26, 2006. The time of his death, he was married to the late Aaron Hewlett. You know, when I was working for Mr. Hewlett, and even after I became tax assessor, nobody could say nothing about Mr. Hewlett to me because I know the kind of person that he was. And I know that if there was anything that you needed of him, if he could help you, he did it. So couldn't nobody tell me he won't do this and he won't do that. No, that wasn't true. If he didn't do it, there was a reason he didn't do it. And the same thing was with John Edward, and still is, right to this day. He's the same way. If you go to him and he can help you, he gonna help you. And if he don't, you can put your foot on it. There's a reason why he won't help you. I hope that I gave you all a little history on this, on Lowndes County and the Civil Rights Movement and what happened back in the 60s. when I was working with the sheriff's department and I was I was asked to run the tax assessor. I didn't want to. And Mr. Willie just kept on at me, so I said, okay, I'll run. And I did, and I won. And I became the first woman that I know of to serve in that office as tax assessor. And I served there for 3 terms, which was 18 years. And then I retired. And I tell people all the time now, when I know you gonna run for this or run for that. No, I'm not. The only thing I'm gonna be trying to run for, if it ain't to try to get to my house, it's gonna be to the county line. Because I ain't trying to run for that there. Because I have gotten to the age now where I can't hardly remember how to go out the front door there. That's a figure of speech. So I know I'm not trying to hold no office. That is for you young folks who got a mind that you can remember. And I'm gonna say this, when you get these positions, any position, whether it's in your church or wherever it may be, when you get to a certain age, step down and let some young person take it. Because I don't care what nobody says, when you get to be in your 60s and 70s and on up like that, your memory is not what it was when you were younger. Yeah. So step down and let some young person come along and take that position. But you gotta train them. Yeah. We so often put our young people up in positions and we don't teach them anything. We just stick them up there and they don't know what to do. We have got to train them to handle the position that they are getting in. You gotta do it. I don't care what it is. If you go around and we ask these young folks to run for office, and they'll accept, but if they hadn't been working in that office, they don't know what to do in there. You got to train them. If you want them in there, put them in that office, get them in there, and if they don't do them, go in there a couple hours a day. So they can see what's going on in that office, so they can know what's going on, or any position for that matter, so they can be ready to take over that position when they get it. Thank you all so much. Jonathan House was proud for thinking enough of me to ask me to be your guest speaker. I don't know why y'all wanted that, but I thank you so much for thinking of me in that way. And I just appreciate it so much, and I'm just too happy that I was able to do it. Thank you.
We have just a little token from Ms. Myrick, just showing some jungle household family love for being our guest speaker for today.